Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to make beef short ribs in the Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. I've got these short ribs here and I'm going to show you how to butcher them, how to brine them, how to apply a rub to them, and how to cook them low and slow so they're super tender and delicious and you're the hero of your next barbecue cookout. So stay tuned, let's get to the video. All right, so these beef short ribs look great. As you can see here on the side profile, there's a lot of intramuscular fat in here. That's gonna provide a lot of flavor. It's a really similar cut to brisket, actually. It's got a lot of fat inside it, and that is all gonna render and it's gonna taste awesome. So we've got about 4 ribs here, as you can see right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut them in what's called an English cut. We don't need all this fat on top of the short rib because there's so much intramuscular fat. So we're gonna carve some of this off. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to cut it perpendicular to the bone about halfway through. And I'll just use a saw to do this. Okay, this is cut now. So what I'm going to do now is put these short ribs into a brine solution. I've pre-made a brine solution to 1 cup of granulated salt to 16 cups of water. So I'm going to grab that now and I'm going to put these into the brine. All right, we'll put these face down into the brine solution so that they can be submerged as much as possible. And this is what's called a wet brine, but you could do a dry brine, which is just basically putting salt on the outside of the short ribs and leaving them for about 3 hours. So what I'm gonna do with this wet brine is put this back in the fridge. I'll wait about 3 hours and then I'll take them off, I'll rinse them, and then we can start cooking. Okay, these beef short ribs have been brining for about 3 hours, so we're going to take them out of the brine solution. And now we're gonna pat them dry with some paper towel just to get rid of that excess moisture. All right, there we go. Now I'm gonna leave the membrane on. It just helps keep all the meat together and the ribs together as you cook it. Otherwise the bones can fall out and then you wouldn't have beef short ribs anymore. You just basically have brisket meat. So I'm gonna keep that membrane on just to hold everything together. Now what I'm gonna do is apply a rub. I made up just a really basic rub. This rub recipe is in the description section below this video, and then I put it in a nice shaker bottle. I'm not gonna put any binding agent. I usually put mustard down first, but I'm just going to apply the rub directly to the beef brisket. This rub is pretty salty, savory. It's good for beef. It's got some paprika, some chili powder, some garlic, some salt and pepper. Just really basic. I don't wanna put any sugar on this because it just doesn't really go well with the flavor of the beef short rib. So I'm gonna apply that now with this shaker bottle. And we'll just get it all evenly coated. Okay, now the rub is applied, so I'm going to throw these onto the Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. Obviously, the first thing you're going to need to do before you start cooking your short ribs is lighting your firebox in the Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. So I'm using some Kamado Joe's Big Lump charcoal. This is supposedly the biggest lump charcoal that you can get on the market. It's a little bit extra money than normal charcoal that's smaller, but I think it's worth it because you get a way longer cook out of it and it lasts a lot longer and it produces a lot more even heat. So I like to use this especially on the Oklahoma Joe's where it's tough to keep even heat temperature, but you can also use just normal charcoal if you want. You'll just have to replace the charcoal more often, most likely. That's why I like to use this Big Lump charcoal. I'm just using some quick lighting heat briquettes, but you can also use a chimney starter if that's the way that you like to light your charcoal. I have some previous videos where I teach you how to light a chimney starter and then start the Oklahoma Joe's. So after a while, I'm just using my gloves here to move around the charcoal lumps until they've got a nice ashy gray sort of consistency on the outside, and that tells me that they're all evenly lit and it's ready to go. At this point, I'll start to put some hickory chips onto the coals. I'm just using some basic hickory chunks. I'll put 2 on. You don't want to put too much wood onto the firebox because it's going to create too much smoke. So just put
1 or 2 chunks on to start with. And then probably every hour you'll want to replace it with another chunk of hickory or mesquite or whatever wood you're using. If you're using mesquite, it's really strong, so you'll want to use less wood. The goal of the game is to get what's called thin blue smoke in the Oklahoma Joes. And that means out of the top chimney pipe of the Oklahoma Joes, you want to see basically a thin consistency of smoke coming out, not billowing acrid sort of smoke, but just something you can see through. And when you can see through it, it kind of creates like a blue sort of color, and that's what you're going for. What you can see right here even is probably too much smoke. Now we're going to move to the side, to the damper or the door to the firebox. And you want to leave it wide open when you're lighting it, when you're getting it up to temperature. But when you're ready to cook, you want to close it just so it's open a crack, just like you saw. So I've got my 2 temperature gauges to the main heat compartment here. I'm going to open it up and show you the inside. I've just got 1 grate. I don't need much grate surface. I've got a sort of fire deflector just to deflect the heat and smoke downwards. Otherwise, it seems to just go right over top of the meat, unless you have some sort of baffle plate or a grate covered in tinfoil. So I'll place the short ribs onto the grate, and then I'll close this up and I'll let that come up to temperature. For the top damper on the chimney, I'll close it until it's about 1/4 open, and then I'll just wait and watch it to make sure that thin blue smoke is coming out. After about 3 hours of cooking at 250 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to open it up. I'm not going to open it up sooner because if you're looking, you ain't cooking. And I'm going to look at what I have here. Looks pretty good to me. It's got some nice bark. It looks pretty good. So I'm going to take it out and I'm going to wrap it. When I wrap it, I'm going to wrap it in tin foil. And I'm going to add a little bit of beef stock just to add some moisture into the packet. And then I'm going to put it back into the Oklahoma Joes for another 3 hours until it comes up to a temperature of around 190 degrees Fahrenheit to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, at which point I'll take it off and let it rest.
All right, so these beef short ribs have come out of the Oklahoma Joe's smoker and we've let them rest for a while. Now we're going to uncover them, open them up, and see what we got. All right, lots of juices in here, both from the short ribs and from the beef stock that we added. Oh, that smells good. And we'll take these out. These are gonna be dripping. Woo! And we'll just put that on this other cutting board here. Okay, so as you can see, the bone of the short ribs has come back on either side of it. So it's still pretty well attached because we did leave the membrane on. So we do have a lot of consistency here and it's all holding together. I think this is a really nice presentation. You can see the bones. They look kind of carnal, kind of caveman-like, which is kind of cool. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to slice these up. Right now I'm going to slice this down the middle. All right, and then I'm going to slice another one here, just so we can see the inner profile. Okay, now let's take a look. Wow. Okay, so we've got that nice pink smoke ring from the Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. We put quite a bit of smoke into here, so that's good. And now we're just gonna give this a squeeze. Look at that. Nice and juicy. So, time for a taste test. Wow, look at that smoke ring, I love it. Look at that, so juicy, such a great presentation. It's almost a shame we have to eat it now. That's really good. Tastes a lot like brisket, has a lot of flavor, has a really good bark on the outside. And actually, this is one of the better ribs I've ever tasted. This is amazing. All right guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked the video and I hope you learned something about cooking beef short ribs on the Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. I really enjoyed this cook and I really enjoyed making this video. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button below and like the video. Thanks a lot guys, see you on the trails.